I think the creative process is so across the board challenging and rewarding, and you always have to pivot and try new things. And I wanted to say, as I wanted to give a shout out actually to somebody who actually used to give us some content when we first started our show on Difficult Podcasters. Grant's Rants was a podcast that was so fantastic. He's been doing it for I think 7 or 8 plus years, and he decided, and I have such an opinion. He decided to, sort of put the podcast on pause. And I had lunch with him recently, or we had green juice, and I was telling him, I'm like, I'm so happy for you to make that decision, because we are not like, we don't have to do this, you know what I mean? And when it becomes not fun, you quit. And I told him, I said, as somebody who's 42 years old, he's much younger than me, I said, there's been many a times where I didn't want to step away, but the creative process was so unfulfilling, or the industry was so disgusting. So I was telling him, I'm like, I'm so proud that you're ending your podcast after 8 plus years. You could always come back. Now I'm selfishly sad because I loved him being in the podcast space, because it was so exciting to chat with him and you get to bounce ideas around or whatever. And I was very supportive of that. So I'm a little like, oh, darn, he's out of the game for a moment or for a year or forever. It doesn't matter. But I did tell him, I said, you know what? Life is so much more important than than our damn show or your damn show. And I hope that I was able to affirm that, make your decisions, as we were talking about in our little segment a bit ago about being over 40 years old. Burn that bridge and go where you need to go, wherever.
But also, don't be afraid to do it younger. Like, learn from, if we can help you not quote unquote waste any unnecessary time. Don't.
Oh, she just made it like we were a joke. How dare you?
No, and I don't. But no, I mean, I love my life, and I am so thankful and so appreciative of all of the great mentors and great people that I, like you, that I've had and been able to keep in my life, like ranging all the years, that have supported me. But there is a big chunk of people that didn't. There's a big chunk of people that gave me a really, really hard time. And I wish that I hadn't been so afraid to get out of that situation. Instead, I let it invade me, and then I became what I hated. And I really wish I wouldn't have done that.
There's such a foothold of, once you start this creative stuff, that you have to do everything and anything, burn yourself up. You know what I mean? Like, just totally, get no sleep and work hard. And when you have somebody who says, I'm done, like I said, I was so proud of my friend, I was so proud of Grant. I was like, that's right. You draw the sand in the line, draw a line in the sand.
Well, I wish I would have burned the bridge instead of burning myself up. That's my point.
Yes, you keep on going. You keep dealing with the stuff. Even, I'm back in the YouTube space now and podcast space now. But for all those years, I was the bastard who used to say, I am not going to do independent content because I had a strong enough resume. My resume included, TLC Network, Fuse TV, tons of radio and production, American Latino for 10 years. Like, it was strong. And I was like, I'm not going to do anything for free. I put that on like as something I deserved. The industry did not. And so and the pandemic happened. And so I did decide to get creative because it became fun to do this. But I'm saying, when I was telling my friend, I'm like, yeah, there's been times in my life where I said no, because we become so, there's a foothold for us to keep creating for free. In our day, Kelly, our first couple of years, you weren't really on our team. You were on the Kiss FM team. We were on the Hot 92 team. But we would put those countless hours, and I know you guys did too. And I remember one of our older colleagues, they were like, I'm at that stage where I have done all of the coming in and shadowing this person, and coming in and cutting, an audio air check, and coming in and helping assist with this talent who's making tons of money and doing it all for free. And we put that line in the sand. And so I just really relish in a time where anyone, even if they maybe don't want to quit what they're doing because it is fun, but if they put that foot down and say, no, I'm not doing this for free anymore. I'm not, like, why do I have been giving and giving and giving and giving.
That there right there, that's the rock and the hard place, because that's when it becomes tough. I mean, I used to work so much. I remember I had parked my car at the radio station to go out with some fellow, street teamers. And when we got back and I was, like tipsy and, getting ready to like, call the ride to take me home, but we're in the front of the building, I'm sitting here thinking, I got to go to work. It's like 2
Oh
in the
yes.
morning, but
Yep.
that's how much I would work. Like that's some sad shit. Like at the end of a fun night out, I'm thinking I got to go to my office. No,
It's like
no, that's
the
not okay.
multitask and the yeah. I'm gonna pull up in 1 second. I am going to pull up just the channel so you could at least see it.
Oh yeah, but it's just it. I just want, and the Gen Zers and the millennials and like all of that now because we're like way out of that. But it's I like that there's a different outlook on life and getting, getting your due and being compensated and all of that. One thing I don't
Mm,
like is the entitlement part of
yeah.
it. I really have an issue with that. But I
Mm,
do believe once you balance it out, everyone should be compensated for the work that they do because,
yeah.
everyone is putting out, everything that you put out has a place somewhere because there's going to be at least one person in the world that can appreciate it. So don't
And
ever be
I
afraid not to.
I think maybe some of the contributions with this tough decision for our dear friend Grant, who decided to
Hmm.
stop his podcast, is because he's been putting in. He was early to the party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of times I say in radio, I started in 2002. I was early to the party. By the time you started, the rest of yous started
Yeah.
doing it for free. I had already put in so many hours. So I appreciate that. And we're looking at his podcast here. I
Hmm.
appreciate that even though he did so much and he really, is at that level where a nice big company could sponsor him or whatever the case, or a company could partner with him, that he said, you know what, no, I'm quitting it for now, or I'm pausing it for now because
Yeah.
I'm not going to burn myself up. And that is something that Kelly, you and I, we didn't really do it as much.
No,
we
no.
we kept working, we kept working, we kept working, and we kept working. Chances are, or not chances are, but the only difference is in our day, there wasn't direct to consumer like doing a YouTube channel. You kind of had to keep working because there was only traditional radio, there was only traditional media, so you couldn't say, I'm going to take a pause. I mean, you
No.
could, but it was relationships you would be
But it was
losing.
also kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So,
Yeah.
I heard LL Cool J clap back at a DJ that was kind of talking shit about earlier artists that didn't make it in hip
Mm.
hop and kind of basically talking about the irrelevance of them.
Oh,
And,
oh, I know what you're talking about.
he got on TikTok and was kind of like, hold
Clown.
up.
He's a clown. Yes,
He's
yes.
like, hold up, wait a minute. But he was very respectful in the way that he did it
Mm.
because he's like, these are things you don't know. Just because they're not making the money that, other artists are making, or just because they're not getting the deals, they still pave the way to do what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Well, I
So
think, yeah, and I think the point. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, it's just like being respectful of the people that came before you because just because there's not dollar signs all over everything doesn't mean that they didn't pave the way and give the inspiration and somebody else just was able to take it a step further and
Yeah.
turn it into like everything comes from somewhere. So I
I,
hate the disrespect
this
of
is
that.
this is what I love though, and this is actually why, as we're ending the show, was a really cool nod, for us to say thank you to Grant's Rants for doing a great podcast all those years. And he
Hmm.
did give us early clips when we were starting
Yeah.
off, and he was just fresh to New York, so he had a fresh New York perspective, and we're covering Hulu's Difficult People. He was given some, Grant's Rants. And what I think is the best thing about this is, while I'm trying to be so supportive and excited for his new venture, whatever that will be, and I'm giving all these tips and advice, and do this. You don't want to end up like this at 42. Like just being motivational and helping him. But I'm also really intrigued that me, because I was not always like this. I'm a little bit more open to like, well, tell me about your decision, and wow, you're stepping away, and why. And and I hate to do this because I usually don't motivate and uplift the younger crowd, but I feel like I'm getting a lot from it. So to your point of DJ Academics is his name, and LL Cool J's commentary back and forth. The problem here is the lack of respect. So I love that the
Hmm.
podcast people, a lot of times, we give each other respect. So whether you're the old crew or you're the 22-year-old, we usually try to meet somewhere in the middle. And if you do that, you can learn a thing or two. And I
But
love
you
that you.
don't have to be disrespectful to have an opinion.
Yeah,
And I think that people kind of come in with that little entitlement that I can't stand, and they kind of come off that way. It's like you don't have to disrespect me to feel bigger and better about you. Just like I
yeah,
don't have to disrespect you to feel bigger and better about me. Like none of us have to do that. Everyone, you can have
yeah,
an opinion and dislike the content someone's putting out. That's different. having a legitimate opinion is different than being like, oh, they don't matter, fuck them. That's not the way to go. That's not a professional thing. I see it like in big instances like that. And I also see it on smaller local levels. I mean, I've seen that happen in like the business that I'm in now, that other business owners, some of them like have, older people that have little temper tantrums and want to talk shit about other businesses. And it's like, you're in a small town. It's not a good look. Like, you don't have to be ugly to be good.
Kellie, you and I grew up without social media. It was the change
Yeah.
was the change was our 21-year-old era. So we remember a life of social media didn't matter that much.
Oh
We
my God, I
remember,
can't even imagine anyone capturing any of the shit that I ever did in my early
but I'm not even stressing that. Yes, I'm more stressing that we come from a place where if you said it, oh, there were the consequences.
Oh yeah.
And the consequences on Twitter are a little bit different. Yes, it's a big old thing, and people are very rude on Twitter, and I get that stuff. But
in
now,
our day, if we said it, we probably said it to your face.
And also
or in like a close circle around.
No, but even different. If you said it and it was asinine, that might prohibit a paycheck from coming to you.
Oh no, for sure.
Now you say something asinine, you can be a Twitter viral sensation and you can monetize. I'm so glad, and mind you, I would love it if our show did a little bit better. But I'm so glad you and I come from a place where we remember that if you say something, you got to be willing to like completely back it up in a way that it's not about monetization, in a way that it's literally about we talked about bridges being, burning bridges.
Right,
yeah. You had to like sit with that. Like, and so that's the difference. The difference is, yes, we were all 20 as well, but we didn't have the luxury of saying F you and then going over to our, little apartment and, and saying, press YouTube and hey bitches, it's me. And, F the mainstream, like we didn't have that privilege. So we had to like be up in it. So I think the best thing about it, and here's my last thing, because I'm sounding too preachy and I don't want to, is just anything you're involved in. Kellie's work, my work, the entrepreneur side, when Kellie used to work in publicity, or when I worked in radio, or when I worked in production, anything you get involved in, do your due diligence to know every facet of it. That's why, and I've seen a change in myself. And again, I never pump and advocate for the damn young kids. I'm always like, y'all have Twitter and TikTok to become famous in a day. You'll be all right. But there are times where I have went into this space where I was like a little bit of a hater of that group, the younger group, just a little bit. But what has changed it is because now I'm creating at the independent level too. So there's a little bit more of a respect. I don't have to like what they do, but there's a little bit more of like a respect of what they do, Yeah.
Well, it's because too, like all of that, every new generation and every new creative person and every new mind can change the direction of any industry. And I just feel like you don't have to be disrespectful and you don't have to be ugly on someone else to make yourself better. Now, it's worked for some people. It has, because unfortunately our society loves a dumpster fire, which is fine, whatever.
I hope it stops.
I do too. But just to feel good about you and knowing that the content you put out, you want to be positive, and there's still a real case of, bullying and all these things that all these younger people are dealing with and going through and all this stuff. Don't be that. Don't be, because you don't have to be that. It might take you a little bit longer, but you don't have to be shitty to be successful, is my point.
No, you don't.
I mean, it might work for you, but you don't have to do it.
I feel like I have no more opinions.
Just be respectful, be nice, and just, do the best you can and get genuine supporters and genuinely support people. And let's see if we can all just, and there's a room for everyone.
Yeah. And willing to make change and be a little bit.
And now this after school special is brought to you by.
I'll have to rewatch this episode and see if we acted like we knew everything. But there's a part of it too. We are now the elder creators.
Oh my gosh.
Not elderly, but we're like, have been doing it 20 years. We kind of do have a right to talk about some experiences.
No, for sure.
I think it's kind of our duty to do so. Again, if anyone who's starting off, a lot of kids are winning, right away. They're 20 years old and they're like all of a sudden TikTok famous. But do they know how to manage the sustainability of being in the industry and what the human interpersonal communication is going to be like in terms of being famous overnight. Like what we talk about, we're not trying to tell anyone who's new, don't do what you do, but understand it's not as easy as just pressing click and then winning online and then getting tons of money. There's an emotional thing with that. You know that because you were in publicity. You've seen, not to knock, but you've seen the Corys.
I have. I've seen the upside.
Referring to Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, the
I've
late,
seen, and I, knew them personally, and I see the upside and the downside, and Drew Barrymore talks about it a lot of everything she went through. I mean, I do. I have such respect for her, but there's so many in my 20-year career of living in LA and being in the entertainment industry that I saw a lot of sad shit. And I went through a lot of sad stuff and a lot of really dark days. And, I had a lot of women that should have been my advocates and should have been my mentors that were really, really tough.
I don't know how and when we're going to get to that series
but
of our show.
That's a whole other thing.
We've been talking about, we're going to get there maybe at the top of the year because Kellie's got some stories and, battling it out in Hollywood is interesting. It shouldn't even be battling, but it is. It's competitive.
No, and it doesn't, and I don't think it's changed. I mean, I think it's gotten a little different, but the battles are still there. And, and I also created battles I didn't mean to create because I let myself get sucked into being the same way. And I hate that. And I'm glad that I just don't have that. And that's one of the values of being older now is that I can look at that and be like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have, again, led with emotions in that way because it was like, okay, well, they're going to give it to me, so I have to give it to you. And that's just not a good look.
Well, that's a heck of a tease for the future. Not all of our shows are going to be this personal, but I thought this was fun. We're wrapping out the show because it's actually time to end. And
I mean, we can talk forever. Clearly, you guys.
Yeah, know. we have to cut it. We'll extended content will be found on our Patreon account that doesn't exist yet. But do go look at our TikTok. Do go look at our difficultpodcasters.com because that links out to our YouTube channel. We have been doing a lot more YouTube shorts, and they have been, by the way, for the first time ever, our old dusty asses have been getting a lot of love on the YouTube shorts. So, I think we had one that had 5,000 views. For us, that's a lot, because we do episodes for an hour and a half and 6 people watch it. That's including both of our mothers. Yeah.